We all get caught eventually, John. I guess the trick is to decide by who.
Despite me placing that quote over the introductory scene in Red Dead Redemption, that line isn't from that game at all. It's actually from the epilogue of Red Dead Redemption 2, where we hear it during what looks like John reflecting after the events of the previous day.
We all get caught eventually, John. I guess the trick is to decide by who.
Now, within the context of that scene, the day before, John had just gotten into a heated confrontation between the leader of the Laramie gang and Abe, a farmhand on the Geddes ranch. The mission itself is nothing more than a fistfight and a decent length cutscene that ultimately can just be completed in a matter of like 5 minutes. But where it's lacking in length, it makes up for in substance. The mission is titled Old Habits, and the point of it is we see exactly what Abigail's been on John's case about during the entire epilogue. He's not a killer, murderer, or the same man he used to be back when he was running with the Vanderlyn gang. He's Jim Milton now, a modest farmhand and stepping up to people, good intentioned or otherwise, pokes holes within his story and invites people to ask more questions in regards to who he really is and what he was doing prior to ending up on this farm. But more dangerously is it brings him back into his old habits, the essence of what Abigail has been all over him about from the beginning of the epilogue. They long left the gang life. They're doing their best to lay low and focus on what's best for their son Jack. But John's inability to just turn the other cheek resulted in him killing a man up in Roanoke Ridge, leading to them pushing further west. And now, members of the Laramie gang are harassing the Geddes estate, and again, John just can't let it be.
What do you boys want with us?
Oh, we just want to have a friendly chat. Are you John Marston? You sure look like him.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just here with my son.
Did you kill a fella out in Roanoke a few months back?
Well, understandable. It shows us directly that pattern Abigail is afraid of. Before interfering, John appeared to be making genuine progress with this farm, making himself as useful as possible and even stopping to pass his knowledge on to Mr. Geddes' son, teaching him how to properly ride a horse. A moment that extends not too long after with his own son, where he and Jack have an opportunity to really bond, go outside, and even have a friendly race back home. Of course, this video isn't about John's progression, but the origins of the line we heard from Dutch. As someone who has spent almost 2,500 hours within Red Dead Redemption 2's story alone, I don't recall Dutch ever making a comment like this, least of all to John. And really, from a wider perspective on the entire story, there isn't any room for Dutch to make a comment like that. Horseshoe Overlook is all about the gang laying low, continuing to move and stay a step ahead of the law, learn this new land and lick the gang's recent wounds. There's no mention of giving up or any kind of entertaining that idea whatsoever. As far as John's relationship with Dutch goes, it appeared to be healthy enough, and comparing John's overall position to all of the gang members, the only person who was giving him any sort of grief actively was Arthur. The rest of them appeared to just accept him right back into their ranks, with the exception of getting annoyed and frustrated with just how often he and Abigail argued. Clement's point is learning more about the southern states and trying their best to get on top of the feud between the Greys and Braithwaites. While both chapters end in massive shootouts and clear signs of enemies of the gang closing in, there's no talk of, let's call it, this defeatist attitude. Dutch continuously has a plan, with no mention of being caught or anything remotely close to acknowledging the writing on the wall. The chapter Saint Denis, I think, has some of the gang's biggest blunders in hindsight, and of course its biggest blows due to the deaths of prominent gang members. But it's not until after the raid on Lakay by Milton and his army of Pinkertons does Dutch then begin to have this aggressive, almost obsessive version of no matter what, they aren't going to catch me. At least not alive. This becomes his fundamental driver behind using the Wapitis and deliberately increasing the tension between them and the United States Army. Selfish and cold-blooded, but still no mention of being captured. Then there's his and John's relationship. It steadily gets more and more tension-filled between the conclusion of Clement's Point to the end of Beaver Hollow. The wedge between the two of them after the kidnapping of Jack at the hands of the Braithwaites essentially creates this divide between them that never recovers. It only gets worse and worse, due to Dutch's suspicion that Abigail is poisoning his mind. a form of poison that is technically true, although it's not really poison. It's Abigail's own concerns as a mother over the safety of Jack and trying her best to push John to think more independently for the safety of his family. And that does begin to influence John more and more, and consequently he begins to question Dutch more and more, with the biggest sin being doing it publicly. So that, to me, cuts out the possibility of John being a private confidant to Dutch and him saying this to him at any point of the story. At least not in the sense of venting. So that does give us 3 other possibilities though. One is a good possibility but does have its own holes within it. This being, it was said to John off screen by Dutch, either during his arrest, at the time of the Saint-Denis bank robbery, or after he was shot off the train during Our Best Selves, where after Dutch then claims to Arthur he tried his best, implying John was killed.
Where's John? I tried.
He didn't make it. That patrol killed him. We had to run.
Come on, let's go. Before another patrol turns up.
I think these are 2 credible moments for Dutch to say something like this to John, as there are moments we don't personally see ourselves but still have a prominent impact on the story, as these are real moments where Dutch has given up on his son. However, with the way John spoke of the Saint-Denis bank robbery and his belief Dutch just let it happen, had these exchange of words gone down here, it would have been even more damning. And not just John saying he felt like Dutch let it happen, but was really all intentional. It could have happened during Our Best Selves. But then again, there really isn't any discussion surrounding what happened there other than John saying Dutch left him to die, Dutch shot and pleading his case, which is then quickly brushed under the rug thanks to Javier sharing the unexpected arrival of the Pinkertons and Micah's instant killing of Miss Grimshaw.
My boy. I didn't have a choice. John, I didn't have a choice. Left me!
All of you, you pick your side now because this is over. Oh, them years, Dutch. For this snake. Oh, be quiet, cowpoke. Be quiet. You live in the clouds.
No, you be quiet, Mr. Bell, and put down your gun.
There's Pinkertons coming, fast! Now!
The second possibility is this line was never actually said to John by Dutch at all, but instead just his own reflection on his recent actions during the epilogue and imagining what Dutch would say in his position. Think of it as if he had the ability to walk over to Dutch's tent and ask him what he thought of everything. A version that I think is still quite plausible given John's own indecisiveness throughout much of Red Dead Redemption 2's main story. It makes sense for him to continue to struggle with essentially dropping how he was raised to think and act, even if it is for the best interests of Jack and Abigail. We even see that hesitation during Beaver Hollow, despite Arthur directly telling him he needs to get his wife and son and just disappear. Everything they ever believed in is over and Dutch isn't himself and struggles to think clearly. John still says he doesn't know. Loyalty is so instilled within him, he still hesitates and struggles to act. He's still looking for that guiding hand from Dutch, but if that's the case, why would John imagine Dutch saying this at all? Had he not proven his defiance to get caught or bend the knee, unable to fight against, as he puts it, his own nature? Is that not what John is doing here, fighting against his own nature? And that leads us to the third possibility. It's a version of the second that's closely tied, but not as isolated. Perhaps John, Arthur, Hosea, and all who knew him well enough understood Dutch's philosophy behind nature and within the context of it, how their nature, or more accurately, what they are, aren't welcomed anymore within this rapidly civilized world. Despite what Dutch tells them, or they tell themselves, the truth is they are similar to the O'Driscolls. Even if Colm just hires in numbers and lacks any kind of personal connections to his men, they still rob, murder, and operate on the fringes of the law. They still have to accept the world can and will live on without them. No matter how hard they try to frame everything they do to make it all more digestible for themselves, when you look at it from the most basic black and white terms, there is no real difference. And perhaps that's the point of John hearing Dutch say this. The epilogue itself also takes place at a time when John, a character who has spent the last 5 to 6 chapters of the game, get pushed by both Hosea and Arthur for not standing up and committing to doing what's right for his family. Arthur tells him he can't be 2 things at once. Hosea even directly tells him what he sees. He has the chance to live, not just live and be free of the reins of the gang, but to live for something the people around him just simply do not have. And Hosea identifies that as love.
Good morning, Arthur.
The thing is, John, we all gotta die. I know that. I, of all people, know that.
Excuse me?
We all gotta die, but you got the chance to live. Not just to live for love.
I got no goddamn clue what you're on about, Hosea.
You're not as dumb as you act, John Marston.
I don't understand.
Be a man, John. It would suit you.
Add in how he just had a coughing fit a second before and decided completely unprovoked to speak to John about how they all have to die. Everyone has a set date and time when the Reaper comes calling. Hosea's, due to his age and his own mysterious illness, is closer to that date than anyone else at this moment within the game. And when you come to terms with that reality, it would only make sense for you to see just how many chances you have to walk away, be happier, reflect on things that you did and didn't do. Arthur had that exact same chance with Mary, just as Hosea actually did have that chance with his wife Bessie, but slowly came back into the gang. Where Arthur seen his little brother coming up with excuses and pretending to be something he isn't, Hosea saw a younger him who has everything he could have ever wanted with potentially better circumstances given his age and at least Abigail's dedication to him and Jack. There is a future there that for one reason or another, Hosea and the rest just didn't have. A future in creating their very own family. Okay, that does do wonders for exploring the personal gripes other members may have with John, simply for the fact of him actually having something beyond just the gang, and him being too doubtful to see it for himself and seize it accordingly. But for me, it all still does circle back to the original quotes of being all caught eventually. And when you break that down, those words become prophetic in a number of ways. For one, Dutch is right. Look at all the prominent members and dangerous enforcers within the Vanderlyn gang. All of them get caught, whether by the authorities or just the way they are living catches up to them. Arthur, of course, gets sick and his health declines dramatically, leading to his death. Hosea, Lenny, the Calendar brothers, and Sean all become victims of their enemies dying by the end of a smoking gun. Micah does too eventually, after being allowed to let hell run loose for the couple of years following Arthur's death. Strauss, from what we hear, dies in custody of the Pinkertons after being brutally tortured. John is later captured by the authorities because of his refusal to let things go. Killing Micah led the Pinkertons directly to his doorstep, where they then forced him to do their bidding in order to, as they claim, absolve his sins. He'd capture or kill Javier Escuela in Mexico, depending on the player's own choices on how to deal with him, determines whether if John is the one to kill him or if the Bureau of Investigation does, hang him publicly. Then he recovers Bill's dead body and brings it back to his government overlords, to finally watching Dutch commit to his final plan, refusing to go out on anyone else's terms but his own. John is the last to die in order to save his family, finishing the prophecy of Dutch claiming they all get caught. The point is deciding by who. Ironically, Dutch out of them all had the most say in that. But then there's the prophecy of Dutch's own words on fighting nature, and how getting caught in the end is an inevitability. I actually love how that initial quote I shared at the beginning of the video works so well with the Dutch's philosophy of fighting one's own nature, and just how it works so beautifully from Red Dead Redemption 2 into how Dutch works within the original Red Dead Redemption. It is by no means a new revelation to say the same speech he gives John right before falling over the edge of a cliff to kill himself in Red Dead Redemption is actually the same exact speech he gives the United States Army 12 years earlier, when he and Arthur have their backs up against another cliff, chased by the army after the pair aided the Wapiti natives in assaulting a patrol of United States soldiers.
Follow my lead. I got a plan. This is a good one. Hello, officers!
You keep them hands up and come here. Put your hands up.
Hello, Captain.
Keep your hands up and come here. Come here.
We can't do that. Your man... Those men they killed? They were good men. You're fighting nature, Captain.
Get over here.
Ask my friend here. My whole life, I tried to fight change. It's a waste. I see that now. It's waste. You can't fight nature, Captain. You can't fight change.
The continuity in Dutch's mentality from the chapter of Beaver Hollow to his actual way of thinking in the first game, I think in hindsight is really strengthened by that same speech given here. I mean, the circumstances are also pretty similar. Dutch's back is against the wall, he has to acknowledge he has been caught, has nowhere else to go, and so he has to resort to this speech that is not entirely different from anything else we hear from him during the entirety of Red Dead Redemption 2. There's a level of confidence in what he's saying, even telling Arthur to trust him. He has a plan, and it's a good one. There isn't even any red flags when he says it. It really does feel like just another moment of Dutch just saying, trust in him, he has a plan. And his plan is nothing really elaborate, well thought out, or even guaranteeing any type of success in getting away. His plan was just to jump. I think the harder part was finding a way to buy enough time with the army through his talking to ease his way over to the edge, and in the midst of that, find a way to suck Arthur into it by drowning any hesitancy or second thoughts Arthur might have given, by directly calling Arthur's recent doubt or dissonance into the forefront when speaking to the soldiers. In other words, the plan here in 1899 is sweet-talking the army just long enough so you can get closer to the edge, to jump while blindsiding Arthur through the same dialogue to not give him a moment to reconsider and just follow suit. Comparing that to what happens in 1911, well, his back is against the wall again, it's just him and his past. There's no one else remaining besides him and John, who's the one after him. And he's well aware of why John is here, so the best thing he can do is offer an explanation of why he's doing what he's doing, and why he can't just surrender. It's not in his nature to just give up, to bend the knee or really do anyone else's bidding. The Dutch in Beaver Hollow is, as John says to Sadie, the Dutch he's always been. If there was ever a single piece of dialogue offered to us to further support that, I would say it would be John hearing Dutch in his head during the epilogue just when he's finding it difficult to adjust. Despite him trying his best and making genuine progress, problems arise that are only dealt with the way he knows how, resorting to violence, killing, fighting, showing outlaws in this region what John and the rest of the Vanderlyn gang have learned so harshly back in 1899. This world is rapidly changing. Bands like the Laramies may still be around, but that's thanks to the luck of being such small fish out on the open frontier harassing good people like the Gettys. But eventually time will catch up, and it's up to you to make that personal choice. Once you're forced to face it and come to terms with actually being able to 100% change or accept you are what you are, whatever side of the fence you fall in within those two options, there are consequences either way.
You're just like me, John. You can't change who you are. You can't erase the past, John.